Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our MOTS November 4th, 2020 EDI webinar. And we survived our elections. There's no civil war yet, so I think it's a good day. It's a bit rainy, but welcome. For those of you new, when you joined, a little panel popped up, and on that panel, there are some sections, and one of the sections is a questions or chat, and you can use that to ask any questions. Because today with me, my name is Piet Vermeer, by the way. Sorry, I should start with introducing myself. I'm assuming everybody knows me by now, but for those of you not so familiar with these webinars, my name is Piet Vermeer. I'm your host for today, and with me are Lyle, Jody, Justin, and Mary. And we will be talking about a lot of things, as you can see on the agenda. As I mentioned, the little menu popped up, and on there is room for questions, and any of those questions might be answered right away in the little chat boxes that we have on that panel. If it's a question that might be interesting or pertain to everybody and might be helpful or useful information, we sometimes bring it into the webinar meeting, and we can hopefully inform you with that. So, okay, let's get going. Well, why don't we start with the first slide, sorry, that's the name of the things. Things get confusing. The purpose of the webinar, why do we do this? Why do we start every month and get together and think of ideas on how to inform you and what should we do and what should be on the agenda? Well, of course, give you information because it's a living, breathing system. We use it to get information from you, and we use that information to report to many different entities and levels of federal, state government, and to management and projects and units and teams and everything. So there's going to be changes and enhancements and things might be moving around. There's one of the big topics that we always like to talk about is discuss data issues, because that's one of the things that our team is one of the main responsibilities is the quality of the data, and that goes very near and to us. So we really like to help you in any way we can to improve the quality of the data. Also, these webinars can be used to get feedback. You can post questions, or you can learn something from it, or maybe even get ideas for future webinar topics, something that you think you ran into or within your organization or during meetings with other treatment providers you kind of learned over time. And I know there's certain work groups with the different EHRs that kind of get together on a regular basis and share ideas and share how things are working, and maybe it can be very useful and helpful to other organizations who might think about switching to your EHR or are using the same one but are not that familiar with it, and maybe have a different version there, because we know that not every EHR is the same. Even if it's the same vendor, they sometimes install different versions. So, and hopefully on these Wednesdays, the first Wednesday of every month, we can answer all the questions you currently have. And if you don't, then we'll let you know how to get to us. So, okay, let's go back to the agenda. And click. It's a little slow. And let's start with Lyle, and he's going to talk to you guys about the state of affairs. Go ahead, Lyle.
Good morning, everyone. So our current state for our MOTS team is we're all still currently working from home, and we plan to be working from home for the rest of this year. We're still responding to all emails that come in through MOTS support. We've all been given state-issued phones so we can reach out when necessary. We have a current goal not to reach out to providers since we know we're all very busy in these times. But if you have any data issues or if you have any questions on MOTS, please email or call us, and we're all happy to help you. We have canceled all in-person trainings, and if you have any training needs, just email MOTS support and we'll set up a one-on-one webinar for you. And we wanted to bring it to your attention. We've had this in a couple of our EDI webinars. There's been a lot more phishing attempts, people trying to approximate our email addresses and sending out. So I just wanted to remind everyone that MOTS will never send billing information, ask you any financial questions, and beware. We've noticed that a lot of these have spelling errors, so just be on a lookout for anything you receive. And if you see anything that you think looks fishy coming from us, feel free to send it to MOTS support and we'll investigate and get back to you.
Thank you, Lyle. Yeah, and those emails can be from look like individuals. It could be because my name has been used in several phishing schemes as well. So it could be if you get something from Lyle or from me or Jody or something, and it looks kind of strange, then beware. Thanks, Lyle. And the next item on the agenda is submit your data, and our EDI specialist is Jody. Go ahead, Jody.
Right. Thanks, Pete. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time spending it here with us to get your most recent MOTS information. So we called this Submit Your Data, and really what we wanted to do is to hopefully bring some clarity to the emails and different communications that you providers as well as EHR vendors may be receiving from our what's called the Compass Modernization Team. So our MOTS team here, we've been receiving inquiries and questions as to whether or not reporting in MOTS is still required, like is there a new system? MOTS reporting, just so everybody's clear, is not going away and will continue to be required of all agencies providing the behavioral health and substance use disorder services until further notice. Messages have been going out. We have a team that has been formed to help us to find a better way or a more inclusive way to help reduce administrative burden on providers that will help streamline your data. We want to lower your administrative burden, and we will still continue when this new system arrives to collect similar or the same data as MOTS. So where your EHR systems have already got MOTS data values embedded within either forms or within your workflow of your system, you know, there may be a few that we drop that we find, you know, hey, those are no longer needed or relevant, but those would be very few. Most of the reporting that we get from MOTS is also data that we, as the MOTS in the state, need to report to the federal government. So Pete kind of made that clear in one of our calls with a provider that a lot of the data is going to stay the same. It may just be a new way that we pull it. This project is to hopefully provide more flexibility to send additional data. So for some of you who are sending information via, you know, say templates that come quarterly or to maybe a particular program, we've been collecting data on all of those different pieces of information where they're at. So our goal is to bring flexibility so that data can also be sent in electronically into the new systems. An enterprise-wide, I need a little more coffee, enterprise-wide effort with many other systems. So we're looking at more than just MOTS. And so for some of you who received our Compass Modernization newsletter, it, you know, talked about gambling and our acute care and other systems out there. So we are looking at ways to bring those systems in. Also, it may be through a behavioral, you know, through a data warehouse where we connect some of these data pools. So that's one option. This is going to give us a better 360-degree view of our clients' services and outcomes. So where they're getting services throughout the state of Oregon with different providers, different services, what's going on. So that's part of our goal as well. Pete, can you flip to the next slide for me? Okay, so for a lot of folks, the big concern is time-wise. You know, like, is this happening tomorrow? Is it happening right away? And so time-wise, this isn't happening this year or most likely next. We are kind of in the process of collecting data and trying to find out what might be an option. And so as we move through this, we've been continuing to collect and get provider and EHR system input. So we've actually taken the time to meet with some of the EHR systems, actually the majority of them, to get their input on how they're sending data maybe to other states, how they're doing things within their systems. We're definitely including them, and we're definitely want to be including the providers. So any suggestions, things that you've put into the surveys that we sent out, those are being included as well. So this is to be a team effort to make it better holistically for all involved. That's our goal. So implementation-wise, when the time comes, we're going to have many communications. We're going to do a lot of pre-planning. We'll have requirement and specification document distribution. We'll do training. We're going to do testing. And we're going to do all those tasks that it takes well in advance. So for many of you that were here when MOTS was implemented back in 2013 and 14, the team really had some great tools. We did have some lessons learned, so that we're going to bring those forward as well. But a lot of really good planning, communication, and so this will be the continued method that we're going to continue with to make this project a success when it comes time for implementation. We've also incorporated your replies to the surveys, as I mentioned a little bit ago, on timeframes for when your system changes and implementations that were provided by many of you. So these are factored into any new system rollout as well. So many of you had options to choose your system to changes every 3 months, 6 months, yearly, kind of what the preference is. So we have taken those into consideration as well. And, and the biggest thing is we do really want to thank those of you who've reached out for clarifications. And we definitely welcome any suggestions or input. This is a collective process for all of us. We're all important in the goals of serving our clients across Oregon. And making sure that they get the best possible. And we know that the data and the reporting is a key aspect of the funding and everything else that's tied to that. So, if you get something and you're like, because I think I asked a couple of providers, would you send me just a little bit of your feedback with the communication you got and maybe how you interpreted it? Our team takes these very seriously, and we do bring them up to the group who is managing communications, and they want to know these things so that we can continue to tailor and try and make sure that our information is as interpretable and as timely and as understandable as possible. So thank you everyone who has reached out to us. For those of you who haven't or you may have questions, please do feel free to contact MOTS support. Pete has some emails for us all at the end. You can also contact me if you work with me predominantly. But our team will get back to you, and we really do want your input. So again, thank you for that. I hope this provides some clarification. We're trying really hard just to make sure everybody's in the loop of what's going on and still managing the interpretation of what's really happening right now. So again, with that, thank you for staying involved and staying plugged in. We appreciate that. That's what makes our team a success. So with that, Pete, I will be quiet unless we have any questions and let you move on to the next topic.
Thank you, Jody. Yeah, I saw a question pop up, and I haven't seen what the question was or if somebody it is about RealD, so maybe we can bring that in a little bit. But first, let me talk about the inactive status choices. As we all know, there we go. When an individual starts treatment at a certain time, at a certain date of admission, they kind of start with a treatment status of active. And as long as they are in your program and they're getting services, they can stay in your program. And depending if it's an addiction or a mental health one, or maybe dual diagnosis, and maybe it's a combined one. It can be any kind of those programs. So, but there are several different inactive statuses. When they complete or when they don't complete, they run away or they drop out or you kick them out or they pass or they are transferred, they are referred to another place. There's all kinds of variations of inactive statuses. And fairly recently, we received a couple of emails and some discussions about these two that I pointed out. And
Hey, Pete?
Yes.
You're a teensy bit pixelated on your audio. I know you wanted me to let you know that.
Yes, thank you. Is it a teensy bit? Okay, I'll slow down a little bit.
Well, yeah, if there's a way you might be able to, use the other audio option, that might be better. It seems like
Okay,
as you talk, it progresses to get a little bit more pixelated. So anyhow, I know you wanted me to bring that up.
Yes, yes, because I can't hear what you guys are hearing. So give me a couple of seconds. I have the other one on standby, and hopefully I can switch
All right.
smoothly. Just a second.
Yeah, sounds good. Yes, for many of you that are here with us today with all of the teleworking and the remoting in, it's one of those things where you kind of have to find like that balance of like which audio works. Do I use my cell phone? So it's been a learning experience, and some days certain things work well, and then the next day the same thing doesn't. But as a group, we've all been very impressed really with how well I think that with all the teleworking and stuff that's gone on, that we've all been able, not just here, but you as providers as well, providing telehealth and things of that nature to connect with your clients and for us to still continue to deliver services. So just one of those things that we kind of like, okay, how's it balancing out? So
Thank you, Jody. How's this?
Yes, that is much better. Much better.
It is, yeah, and I've lessons learned. You talked about it earlier. I thought I'd be prepared, and now I have and my desktop, excuse me, and my phone. So in case something goes a little off, I can always switch to the other one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm telling folks. So, okay, I will let you continue, and I'll put myself back on mute.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I was talking about the inactive statuses, and these two we highlighted and picked them out for today because there were some emails about it. And it's left against professional advice, including dropout. So if they just for a while they don't really show up anymore, that happens. You make appointments and they come, and then you make an appointment for next time, and then a couple of more sessions in the coming weeks, and then all of a sudden they fail to show up for one and fail to show up for another one. You don't hear anything, and a nice term, of course, is that they went AWOL, absence without any leave. So we don't know where they are, and we haven't heard anything, which is different from the service discontinued by the facility, because when they left against professional advice, you're going to close out the system. You're going to discontinue the service. So in both ways, it's the end of the treatment episode. So that's where I can understand the confusion comes from, because you're going to stop the service. But the service discontinued by the facility is specifically for individuals who don't follow the rules. We all have certain rules. They have to, you can't have dirty UAs, or you have to be on time, or you don't have to disrupt sessions. You have to behave according to certain rules and things like that. And if an individual keeps breaking those rules, you as an organization can decide, say, sorry, we no longer want you here. Maybe we can refer you somewhere else where it might be better suited for you. But that is actually actively discontinuing the service by the facility because of certain interactions with the individual that are now working out. So that's the difference between left against professional advice, including dropout. Because both cases, it's an inactive status, but it depends on the situation. The one is where they never show up, or you ask them to come again, and or that can happen as well, that you ask them to come back, and then they say, nah, I'm good. I'm feeling great. I don't need any help anymore. We can call it good. And if anything goes bad, then I'll see you again. So that is left against professional advice, because you think, or the counselors think, that maybe they should come for a couple of more sessions. So I hope this clears this up a little bit better. So because we had some questions about these, and there might be questions about other inactive statuses. So if there are, please let us know. Okay, let's go back. And then, oh, no, I have to go back to one. There we go. This should, this one is for Justin. and it is statistics on submissions. Sorry that I skipped the agenda, but I think something popped the wrong direction. Go ahead, Justin.
So it looks good now. So as all of you know, one of the MOTS reporting requirements is that every client record should be updated at least every 90 days. More frequently is preferred, often makes things easier for us and for you as the providers, but we understand that not everybody can do that, so 90 days is the minimum. And we track that using this performance report. In the pie chart, green indicates clients who were
Is it just me, but you're sounding very bubbly, Justin. Sorry to interrupt you, but Jody, did you hear that as well?
Are we getting that echo effect again?
Now it's good. There's a slight echo, but it's not the bubble. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just keep going then. So in the pie chart, green indicates clients who were updated within the 90-day requirement. Yellow indicates clients who are updated within 3 to 6 months. Orange is those who are updated within 6 to 12 months. And red is clients who have not been updated in over a year. As you can see, statewide, 3% green, pretty good. But that 31% in red, plenty improvement for improvement. If we can go to next slide, please. Thank you. And on these two charts, you can see the difference between data submission methods. Again, these are statewide numbers, but the left shows stats for EDI submissions, the right shows stats for manual submissions through the client entry web portal. EDI is doing better with nearly half in the green, but still over 20% in the red. Now, this is usually where somebody asks, what about clients whose information in the last 90 days? Are we just supposed to make up a change and submit that? Well, there's an easy solution to this problem. MOTS sees any behavioral health submission as an update. The whole idea is that we want to see how the client's situation has not changed during the course of his or her episode of care, rather than just getting a snapshot at the beginning and again at the end. So if the client has gotten a job, married or divorced, reduced or maybe increased substance use, that sort of thing, please submit an update that shows those changes. If nothing has changed, complete anyway with all the same data as the last submission. MOTS will still pick that up as an update, reset the 90-day timer for that client, and help keep your submission rate in the green.
Excellent. Thank you, Justin. There we go. So we can skip that and we go to Jody again. The best practices on how to discharge. Go ahead, Jody.
Okay, great. This is a topic that we kind of bring up about every, 12 months or so, because it's a relevant one, and sometimes we have new individuals who've been put in charge of MOTS and your submission. So we just kind of wanted to go over these. Because this also kind of affects some of the ones that are in the red. If you haven't discharged them and nothing really changed, and as Justin said, maybe you're like, well, nothing changed, so I'm not going to update them. Sometimes those are the ones that sit in red, and then when you discharge them, they will drop off that red. So discharges, result episodes, or other terms for the situation when a client is no longer in treatment must be reported to MOTS. So contractually, the reporting has been done within a 90-day minimum status update. So many organizations find this time frame to be limited and a little ineffective, especially with repeat clients. What that means is that you may have a client that comes in and is seen for 30 days. Maybe they don't come back like they're supposed to. They leave against professional advice, but they come back in another 30 days. So now we're at 60 days. So if you've waited for the 90-day minimum to report, you're going to end up with the first one not being reported to us as left against professional advice, and then letting us know that the new episode of care started another 30 days out with a new admission date. So again, organizations find this timeline to be a little limited. So what we have seen as best practice with a lot of the EHR systems and the way they're reporting is, and they all do a little different ways for you to get your files to us through EDI, but the best practice is to submit your status files to include the discharges on a weekly basis. In MOTS, there is not an official field for the discharge or closure date. So our analytics teams use the date you submitted the closure along with some other services on when they were received or when they stopped being received as the actual closure date or discharge date. So it's important that you're, not waiting till the 90 days to tell us that they were discharged. In fact, they, say left at 30 days when they, you weren't recommending they do that. So kind of as my example that I was trying to do before, but in my slide here, is so if the client goes out of treatment on February 2nd, but you did not report this until April 1st, for your 90-day submission, it will appear as though they left treatment on April 1st, not February 2nd. And this kind of gives the impression that the client was in treatment for 2 months when they were not. So what I've seen, I work with a lot of different providers, and some of us, we meet weekly, we might meet every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever our setup is that the provider would like help with. But what they have found is by submitting their files weekly, it accurately reports those discharges. It also allows you to send an update on your clients. I know some of you have a 90-day reminder notification that comes from your system to say, hey, you need to do a 90-day review. So if you're doing the 90-day reviews, then, do them as they come up. But whoever's submitting your files, if you do it weekly, then the information gets to us quickly. Also, it allows if there are things that maybe need to be changed on what you sent us that weren't correct, so we didn't actually put that submission in MOTS for the client because they were missing, say, race or their marital status, because those are required fields. It gives you time to get back with your staff, please correct this, and then when you submit them again the next week, then now those updated values, however your system does it, should come in for that client and give us an update. For those that submit weekly and do this on a pretty regular process, their green is a lot bigger on their individual agency charts. The discharges are more timely, obviously, reported to us. And along with that, with doing it weekly, your errors that you get in your files are a little more manageable. And when you're working with your staff to say, hey, this thing needs fixed or that thing needs fixed, pretty soon your staff is like, oh, okay. And it's just like the second time they've told me I forgot highest grade completed. And that's a problem because it's required. So your staff kind of get into that mode as well, of knowing, oh, yeah, MOTS is kind of here on the forefront. So with that, the discharge best practices is really just an important thing. It's the way MOTS works, and it's the way that your organization can most accurately, report and send to us. Again, I know the 90-day minimum is what's in our documentation. And sometimes when we first meet with a provider and they're like, weekly, then, after we've gone through it for a few weeks, they're like, oh, you're right, this is so much better. And the error rates get so small. The errors you get back are just so little that it really makes it nice. And then, when you're reporting that way, if something happens, right, it's like, okay, we had priority project, we had an issue happen. I mean, with COVID this year, we've all seen many, many changes. If you don't get reporting in for a couple weeks or whatever, your ability to, when you do submit, it's so much easier when your data starts picking up, if you've been doing it weekly and now you've missed 2 or 3 weeks, to kind of get right back on track. So for any of you that would like more information about this or would like to utilize a time slot with myself to kind of go over how you do this or want help on it, please reach out to me and we can see what fits with your processes and my schedule, and I'd be happy to help you. This is something I've been kind of ongoing doing with folks who have been up and running for quite some time. So, Pete, do we have any questions on this? Or are we good?
I have not seen anything. I can check.
Okay.
I think it's the real D that has been the question.
Okay. Do we want to address Real D
We also
before
have
we
a question
move on?
from Ben about historic submissions.
Okay. Well, do we want to maybe address those two before we go to the next slide so we can give folks a break from my voice?
Sure, I'll read this one. Because the next item is you again. That's why we jokingly call the EDI the Jody Kramer show sometimes. But Ben asked, what do you suggest an agency to do that needs to do a lot of cleanup? Historically, the agency has not submitted those status files weekly, so now there are many clients that are no longer active in the EHR and thus is not hitting the EDI files generated by the EHR. Well, Ben, I think Jody mentioned several things already, that as long as these individuals are closed, that we do need to have that information. So you might want to discuss it with a technical person to see how they can be entered in with the inactive information into the system so that they are properly showing that they did end treatment in one form or of another. There are several different ways they can trigger it. Sometimes that's how certain system work. There's manual intervention that can trigger records to make sure that they get into the files, or they can be created as a specific file, as a specific submission to do a cleanup. I'm working with Jody over the years, and she has a lot more experience than I do, but we've had those things come in as well, that we needed some assistance or some of the vendors' assistance, and then we can usually work it out, or there's usually a person in charge of running the data submissions from the EHR, that there are certain ways to set them up, and then we can kind of deal with that. Because it is important, old stuff that has been never submitted, we get that question as well, because there's organizations that only started submitting with the EHR a couple of years ago, and they ask about the old stuff, but we're not interested in that. We want your current clients in your current system. If they are open in our system, and you can check that by checking the active client report. Every first of the month, your organization, somebody in your organization gets the active client report. It's kind of like gives an overview with similar colors that you saw in Justin's pie chart. They have the red, that means, hey, they haven't been updated, but all these clients are active. So if you check that list and you compare it to the system that you have, then maybe you can start with us. You can give Jody a call or send her an email and say, hey, Jody, we checked our list and we have these 10, but they were open 5 years ago or something, or they've been closed for the last 4 years, but somehow it never showed up. So definitely shoot an email, and then you can work to clean that up.
Yeah, and Pete, can I just add to that just a
Sure.
tiny bit? I believe I'm familiar, I believe, with the the system that Ben has. And Ben, what I would recommend is that you reach out to me, and if we could set up just we'll find something that works on your calendar and mine, and we will talk about this, because there is a process that we can go through working collaboratively with yourself and your organization, your EHR, and our team, which typically is me, and or Pete if I'm unavailable, but there is a process for us to do this. So if I would just recommend, please reach out to me. I may send something out to you as well, and let's just get something on the calendar to have an initial call, and then I'm pretty confident we can find a solution moving forward to help you out.
Cool. Ben says thanks. And they are on Credible. Jessica was asking that, and that was a good question. She said, hey, which system, which EHR is Ben using? Because there are many other people, many other organizations that are using Credible. So Jody can probably compare notes and say, oh yeah, that place has done the same thing, and maybe get some people together and communicate on a meeting. And Jody can usually pretty good of getting people together. Talk about how other organizations have dealt with these things. So that's all excellent questions. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's excuse me. That's exactly correct. And Credible has added some additional tools to help assist reports and things that have found to be useful in assisting with this type of project. So yeah, let's reach out to me. We'll get together, and anybody else who may be in a similar situation as well, reach out to us. We are familiar with the other EHRs as well, such as Ochin, CareLogic, Dr. Cloud. There's the NetSmart products. There's a lot of, you guys all have different ones, but we're familiar with the bulk of those systems. So if you find your organization might be in a situation like this, we can find ways to help you out, at least get a plan, give you some direction.
Excellent. Thank you, Jody. And that brings us to agenda item number 7. And guess who's going to talk about switching systems and thinking of changing? Let us know. Go ahead, Jody.
Okay. And for some reason, my screen's not updating right, but going from memory at the moment. So yeah, if you're thinking of changing systems, either if you're already EDI and you're going to change from one system to another, let us know. Notification is the most important thing. We just had an organization get a hold of us that says, hey, we're looking at March or April. What kind of things do we need to do on the front end? Part of their organization submits to client entry. So it was really great. They're proactive and reached out like that, because then we were able to say, oh, hey, I got Lyle involved because he does a lot with client entry, and we got some good, like, okay, here's some things we need to do first. So letting us know that is important. Also, we do realize that even with COVID and the different environment we're in today, everybody is still moving forward with business and doing changes. So let us know. Secondly, if you're looking at different EHR systems, like maybe you're changing from a system or you're going from paper to electronic, most of you are very concerned about the fact that you need some MOTS functionality. And as we said today, MOTS is not going away in the near future. So you're going to want to know how that works. And so one of the things that we found with organizations is sometimes kind of asking deeper questions on the functionality piece helps with understanding how that's going to work for your organization. So maybe ask what the actual business process is for how the MOTS functionality works. How does this work? I think I got to redo my slide. How does this work from the time the client comes into your organization, into your EHR system as a new client, to the actual submission of MOTS data to the state? How much staff time will be needed or required? Who's going to do which steps? No one way is better than another. So there's just different workflows, and for organizations, we found that sometimes understanding those deeply at the beginning helps you to best train your teams and to really identify who your key players will be that will still be needed if you're going from, say, client entry to EDI or from one system to another. So really maybe ask for a demonstration. Just make sure you understand that process. Project timing is important, which ties to number 1. If you're thinking of changing, let us know so that we can help you get things done that might need to be done ahead of time on our side to have you prepared. We'll also talk about the process for switching your data submission. So if you're going from client entry to EDI, there's some processes there that we found work well to do in a certain order. There's a secure file transfer protocol. Some may hear FTP or SFTP. What this is it's a server here at the state, and we set up a special directory, kind of like a mailbox, where your files get sent to us and submitted, and also where you get to retrieve a file the next day, or your system will, and let you know how your file processed and what was good, how many went in, and what might need some attention. Client ID considerations, number 6, is something that's important if you're, depending on how you're going to use your facilities and which system you're going to, we may need to update those to the new ones for your new system. That's a process we do with MOTS support and a few of our teammates. So we talk about whether or not that's necessary. We're going to test the files through EDI. So this is important if you're looking at different EHR systems and they say, yes, we submit to MOT, we have other customers that submit. You as a provider and organization will still need to certify your files with that system. There's so many custom setups and ways to make systems work best for your organization. We just want to make sure that those files still have everything we need to come in. So we do a testing and certification for you, the provider. We're going to go live because usually the testing, we've kind of got that laid out, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time. It's a process, but we get through it. We go live, and then we do follow-up. And the follow-up is really to help whoever at your organization is doing these things or getting the files back, the information, like what needs to be done. How do I understand, what does this message mean? Maybe, we need a little extra help. We do follow-up, and that can be determined, the frequency based on your organization, how it's going, as little or as often as you need it. So organizations have found that to be very helpful. So yes, in this technical world and with all the things going on, we know that these system changes happen, and we've been through it a number of times, and we've got a lot of lessons learned. So we're always very confident if you let us know, and we can start plugging in with your team and what you need, that we can help you make that transition as smooth as possible. So with that, I will be quiet, Pete, and we can go to the to the wrap up. So,
Thank you, Jody.
You're welcome.
Where is my mouse? My mouse disappeared. There we go. There it is. Oops. There we go. Questions and answers. Thank you, Jody. That was a good one. I'll give you a little break. If you have any questions or any questions that pop up later after we're done, please send us an email anytime. And the email is mots.support@dhsoha.state.or.us. And sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes it's a little busy, and sometimes we have individuals that kind of try to pass the question on to the expert, and then it might take a day or two. And but we always try to get with you or back to you as soon as possible. So also, as I mentioned in the beginning, we record this webinar for those of you who think it might be helpful for some of your coworkers to listen to it, or maybe re-listen to it again, because some of the stories that Jody pointed out of switching system, you might want to just listen to it one more time because it might be coming up, or maybe someone in management or several managers are thinking about switching systems because they heard that the new latest and greatest new system is out there and everybody wants to switch to that one. Probably not true, but before they do, you can kind of say, hey, we have a nice webinar here, and there's a site, a slide that Jody talks about how to start and what to do when you are thinking about switching systems. So maybe it can be used for that. On the MOTS website, there are future webinars, and for those of you who recently checked, you'll see that this one in December is the only one out there. The next one that we're having, which will be focused more on client entry web tool on Wednesday, December 2nd. Hopefully pretty soon we can get the agenda going for next year, and it'll be pretty simple. It is every first Wednesday of the month. And since December is CE, your first will be January 6, I'm guessing, roughly, if I'm looking at it now with the calendar here. So that should be coming soon. We will be making the list, and we'll be setting up the links where you can register and everything. So you can find them there. And this webinar, the recording of it, is usually on our website within a couple of days. Our web team works pretty quick to get that out there. So again, if you have any other issues, questions, Oregon.gov, OHA, HSD, AMH-MOTS page is indexed, the link at the bottom here. You can use that as well. I'd like to go back to my team. Jody, Mary, Justin, Lyle, were there any questions that you guys think we should bring to the floor?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Mary. Go ahead.
Okay. There's one question from Shannon Haas. How do EDI submitters notify MOTS of a status file sent in error that needs to be removed?
Did you get that, Jody?
No, I couldn't hear what Mary said real good. Let me
The question is about a file that has been sent in error. What usually happens? What's the story about that? I know that if it is sent and it's submitted, then depending on what data is in there, it will or will not be processed. If it's data that if it's updates that you had not intended, or the file is an old file, then it might kind of bomb out with all kinds of funky errors. So if it's the same file that you sent before, our system will usually consider it just an update. As Justin mentioned earlier, if there is nothing really changing for an individual, you can still submit that record information in a regular file on a regular basis. The system will check and say, oh, okay, I don't have to update anything, and gives, but they checked, and it'll give our system a date and timestamp. And then we, our reports will review it as an update, and even if there's no real changes. So I don't think you have to worry about it too much. If you send a file and you know it before it's processed, then we probably can pull that back out. But
the just to add into that, so for Shannon, when you say that it was sent in error, if it accidentally closed clients or did something like that, I think that might be one of the issues too, Pete, is like if it updated clients that shouldn't have been updated a particular way. Shannon, what I'd recommend is reach out to myself and MOTS support, and let's just take a little deeper look at what some of the concern is, and then we can give you best direction. And I would say for everybody, I commend all of you for hanging in there with us, because we still have a lot of attendees. If you do find that you submit something or something gets closed in error, or you're trying to figure out what's the best way to rectify that, please send an email to MOTS support and myself, and we will work with you to give you some direction, because we know these things happen. Especially some systems are fully automated, so they're automatically sending things, others you're sending them. So reach out to us, we can give you at least best direction on what we think needs to be done.
thank you, Jody. Yeah.
Sorry. No, yeah, and just there still is a question about this real D that I think we might have missed. So
I spotted that, and I always have to think the real D, because I know it is with race and ethnicity and all the different options and selections, if there's any changes and stuff like that.
Right.
And gender, gentrification and stuff like that. And I know there are business analysts are looking into this. The current MOTS won't have it. Currently, we are in a system that is stable and will not have any changes. So the new MOTS system might still be the same, but with a bunch of updates and changes, and in a different technical background. Because currently we only have one programmer that is busy with a lot of other stuff. So there won't be any changes for quite a while, as Jody mentioned. Definitely not this year, because there's November, December, and then we're done. And then as time comes next year, there's not going to be a new system. There might be some changes. And Real D, I've heard, it is definitely in all the business requirements that we're talking about. But a lot of it also for us depends on what the federal government is requiring. Do they want to make those changes? And if it's a federal change, then it's definitely going to happen for us. If it's more of a state change, then it might be implemented over time or in different steps, or when we have the manpower to make that change happen within all of our systems. So maybe it's going to happen in the Medicaid system. Well, if it's going to happen there, then I'm pretty sure it will happen here. But I've learned from experience that any changes in those systems might not always, usually take quite a while. So if there's any of those changes, we'll definitely let you know, definitely.
Yeah, and our business analysts messaged, because they listen in on these as well. It sounds like Real D will not change in the current MOTS, but definitely it is being considered and will be incorporated into any MOTS replacement system. So if some of you are aware of requirements that are out there to report Real D in the interim, maybe send that question in to us, and our business analysts can take a look at what there may or may not be that is a separate reportable thing for Real D. So please send that question to us if you need further information beyond that. We will not be at this time adding it to MOTS.
Cool. Correct. Thank you, Jody.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, anything else popped up?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, that was excellent timing. It's almost 10 o'clock and we schedule it usually for an hour. So again, all thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you have any questions or issues, mots.support@dhsoha.state.or.us. Thank you for attending. Take care.